Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another podcast here on Fearless Games. I'm Matt the Vet, and today I'm joined by...
James the Wildcard.
How's it going?
Not bad. I thought I would bring in a little bit of rumor stuff, which I don't often do, but because it's Mechanicum-based, I figured I just want to touch base on really the two parts that matter of the rumor.
Okay.
Because, yeah, the whole idea of Cult Mechanicum going to come out as a Codex, we basically figured that out by this Qatari's feel, right?
Yeah.
When, who knows? It's not so. I feel it's less an issue of if and more an issue of when at this point now. But the two big things I want to talk about with it, because the other stuff is really whatever, but these are the two juicy things, are the idea of actual Imperial Knight variants to be in that Codex with them, which my opinion is I would like to see that, because I'd like to see GW kind of wrest control of the Imperial Knights again.
Yeah.
And offer another kit. And I want a Crusader because I want big guns. But that's just me. But it would be cool. What I would like to see, if that is valid, is I would like to see their war gear options worded in such a way that says these options can be taken by Irans and Paladins from Codex Imperial Knights, just if there is any options at all, just so that spices it up a bit more. You know, I think that would be if they're gonna be stat line and stuff essentially very similar, I think that'd be a cool way to offer us diversity with the Imperial Knights Codex without having to redo it. You know?
Yeah.
So that would be cool. And the other thing is the idea of people saying, "Oh, troop choice electro priests," and while they are a tech priest, they are a military type of tech priest, and they do bolster the Skitarii forces when they fight and they go to war. Me personally, they're probably going to be true choices, but me personally, I would have liked to see them higher up, because in their fluff, they can do so much. They're a living battery.
Yep.
And basically that means they can infamous this. They can, shoot lightning, essentially, and be coal. So, and they can also...
Force lightning.
And so they can basically force lightning, and they can charge it up and release a really strong blast, and they can also, do stuff in melee with it. And the only reason I'd say I wouldn't want those as troop choices is, well, two reasons for that. A, I think they could have cooler options as an elite choice. Be a bit more representative of their stuff. And B, I feel like the Mechanicum, and hopefully there's more than one troop choice, but I feel like they would have their, a servitor combat team or a tech thrall team, throwaway stuff to protect their tech priests. So I hope to see that. But those are the two big things out of Mechanicum rumors, is the Imperial Knights thing, which is cool. Electropetes, which, if that artwork thing that people are saying is concept art for them, will look pretty cool. I just personally wish they were a bit stronger, or would be not a troop choice, and therefore could be a bit stronger.
Okay. One thing, speaking of rumors, that I'm a little, very, not concerned / going, why? Is a rumor that, one of the there's two rumors that I've heard. Sometimes they're saying it's the same unit, sometimes they're saying they're two different units, but their Cult Mechanicus is getting Johnny 5-like troops, dudes with
they're basically going to get the lead, stuff from Legio Cybernetica. All the things that people are saying is they're hyping stuff up too much.
But the thing is one person describes one of the models, and then they go, it's basically that con machine from Mechanicum. And I'm like, whoa. Why would a Dark Mechanicum item be a unit in a Mechanicum book?
Well, that's not a Dark Mechanicum item.
Yeah, it is. It's the AI robot that was sent out to kill when the Dark Mechanicum Magnos sent it out.
No, they corrupted it. That thing was originally not supposed to be that AIE, but they built plenty of those chassis.
Oh, for some reason the book made it, because the way that the book made it, where they're like, what is this thing? I was like, oh, it must be the first Mechanicum robot. The Dark Mechanicum robot.
That weird three-headed thing that killed everything.
Yeah, that kept chasing the one girl.
Yeah, that started off maybe by a Chaos-y tainted Dark Mechanicum 2B person, but the Legio Cybernetica and Legio Reductor or Auto Reductor and stuff. Mechanicum, basically, what that was a really advanced Cybernetica, basically. And then stuff happened, and evil. You know what I mean? It was
okay.
It was at the fringe of what the Mechanicum tolerates, which is what they do all the time, like with Xenotech and everything. The problem with these rumor stuff right now, which is why I don't want to bring up. I didn't feel like those two things I felt were the best things to talk about was because we have nothing to go on with Legio Cybernetica at the moment. So what they do and how they do it will be great. And the thing about that whole Dark Mechanicum robot is the Dark Mechanicum do have access and basically opened up that seal, opened up that forbidden vault and went, "Ooh, look at all of the Ataris." But
well, it would be more like PlayStations. Because they're okay with Ataris, because that's old tech. They can trust that.
Yeah, but this is like Ataris that were like, never released. These are like
the Coleco 2600.
Yeah, like this is that, and therefore it's tainted. It's not trusted. It's not proven over time. So they can't trust that. But but they also basically corrupt. Like anything Dark Mechanicum is basically you take anything Mechanicum-y and then you go evil.
Yeah. The issue is in the book Mechanicum, no one recognizes it, and they go, "What is that thing?" And so it was written as that's a new piece of tech that they found inside that vault. They did really clearly distinguish that it was something that, like, no one ever went, "It looks like this, but I've never seen them act like that before."
The that's the problem with not with the Mechanicum book is because what it's referencing is there's a short story that's around a particular basically robot thing that either it's basically the same robot or something very similar. And the thing is, it's essentially they've never seen it before because it's a new design. It's like, I've never seen a Mark 9 power armor type deal. Like, what's that? I've never seen it before, which doesn't exist at the moment. But my point is,
they're working on it.
Yeah, but like that's like, but the Mechanicum also they're really big on the barest of R&D possible. So if you have this radical new thing, like even if your Legio Cybernetica went from being this tank trodden, like T-80, like the T-8 thing or whatever from Terminator.
T-800.
No, the big tank tread one, like the first one, the T-1s or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if that was originally the Cybernetica, and you built one that had spider legs and a scorpion tail and crab claws, people go, "What is that?" Even though if it had the same exact weaponry, the mechanic would go,
"Fair enough."
Like
fair enough.
And also, Mars is so packed with stuff that literally you can uncover new things every day if you tried. Like, like especially with the way the Skitarii talk about the Mars now, it's like inside a scroll case you could find like a quantum computer teleportation device that everybody forgot about and nobody's seen in millions, in millennia, I should say. And it's in a scroll case next to a book on how to repair spaghetti. And it's like,
how to repair spaghetti?
Like, why is this in the same section? Librarians, you're dropping the ball here. And then you realize all the librarians were in the Space Marines chapters, and that's why nobody organized this bookcase. So
that's why their libraries are full of chaos.
Exactly. So
because the librarians are too busy fighting chaos.
It does get a bit confusing. The one thing I do hope is more fluff on the Dark Mechanicum in the Codex. Not because I'm intrigued and want to know more. I know enough to know that they're evil and what they do. But in the Imperial Knights, right?
Yeah.
They mention about the absurdly rare prospect of an Imperial Knight House going traitor. It's happened in the past, and it's happened a few other times after the Horus Heresy, but it's so exceedingly rare that you barely ever see Demon Knights on the battlefield. But they do exist in very small numbers, and basically Knight Houses don't go traitor.
Yes. But
they still mention them because of the fact that, A, to appease the fan people who want a Chaos Knight, and B, because they're going to field it, and, Unbound, no problem, make it all spiky.
Or even still, Desperate, Come the Apocalypse still allows you to play them in a Chaos army.
Yeah, but it's just like, they do that so as fan service to appease that, and B, that also can explain some of the cool Chaos-like things, like that Khorne Knight tank thing.
Yep.
But B, even though it's absurdly rare and basically never happens, they mention it because that's their Chaos Space Marines. In the Space Marine Codex, they make mention of Chaos Space Marines. In the Chaos Space Marine Codex, they make mention of the Loyalist scum. You'd think in the Mechanicum, they make mention of their version of the Chaos Space Marines. This is the Dark Mechanicum. This is the anti-U.
The one thing that I'm really curious about is just what the Dark Mechanicum status is right now.
The thing about
because
there's
because I've heard I've always been under the impression, from the excuse me, Chaos Codex and all that they're basically just that they're just like the Mechanicum. They've taken over a bunch of Forge worlds. They have a couple in the Warp that do their thing because, that's supposedly how the Planet Killer was built, was a Warp based Forge world.
Oh yeah.
And they're just sitting there going, and a Chaos dude goes, "Could I have that cool spiky thing?" They're like, "Yes, you can." And he goes, "Could you add more spiky things? Here you go," type of thing. But then I've heard stories that supposedly the Dark Mechanicum are dying because they're constantly getting attacked and they have, no Forge worlds left and all this other junk.
See, the thing with the Dark Mechanicum is, as it stands now, and maybe they'll spruce it up a bit in the map that comes in this next Mechanicum book, is there's only one Dark Mechanicum world on the map, outside of warp storms.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because typically what they do and how they create stuff can't be done outside. They are warp tech. They are warp smith, essentially. Yep. Not like the evil tech marine, but they are literally what they do needs to be done on the warp. And
I was mentioning before, if anyone's never read it, Magnos Mechanicums looked at blueprints of the Planet Killer and went, "This thing was not made in our reality."
Yeah, there are things that their big bad stuff has to be done in the warp or under heavy warp influence. And that's why the one Dark Mechanicum world, which is most likely a Dark Mechanicum Forge world, it's just listed as Dark Mechanicum world, is basically on the fringe of what looks like to be one of the warp storms in the galaxy. So maybe there are others that are just hidden, better than that one. We know about that one the best, and we know they're in the warp somewhere. They have it's for anybody who knows Wraith the Oblivion.
I've heard of it. Yes.
The setting that they're in, how they're in this world that's a parallel to the real world, basically what would be the warp to us in 40K. How the Wraiths exist in a world that's laid on top.
Yep.
That's how the Mechanicum has been described a lot as well for the Dark Mechanicum. They exist in the warp. That's what I'm trying to say. And while they are plundered by Chaos forces who don't want to do bargains with them, they're also still...
Yeah, they still work with some.
Yeah, but let's face it, they work with some who want to, and others just try to plunder them and take what they can. That's the Chaos way. We can't help each other out against our common foe. We must hate ourselves as well. But
they must always hate.
But they exist in this weird fluff state of being a thing and doing their own thing, as well as being defensive and not doing much. They basically exist for whatever the plot hook for a novel needs them to do, essentially. So they're not like the Eldar, a dying, race of things. They're not a dying faction like that. Yeah. But they are attacked. They do have the dark worlds of their own that do get wiped out by Chaos invasions, because I'm not going to make a deal to give them, a PlayStation 4. I'm just going to raid their warehouses and take all of their joysticks and whatnot and whatever. Yep. So that's why the fluff about them is a bit odd, and that's why I don't really want a data sheet for them in a Mechanicum book. I feel like if they wanted to do the Dark Mechanicum, it would have to be like how Chaos Space Marines are, because what the Dark Mechanicum do is a lot of demon-infused technical stuff. It's like, yo, dog, I heard you like demons and tanks, so I put demons and tanks on your demons and tanks, so you can demon with your tanks. And that's basically what they do.
Basically. And so, speaking of crazy stuff, let's crank it on back out of the rumor mill for a little bit. We got ourselves a new Codex this Saturday.
Yeah, the Eldar thing came out, and as expected with every other Codex, the whole whining and pitfalls and valleys have leveled off.
Everyone is now complaining because everyone was like, they're going to totally get balanced and make it where a single guard unit can wipe out an entire Eldar army, because that's totally balanced in this game and all that junk. And then they're like, what the fluke? One guardsman can't kill an avatar. That's so broken.
The problem is, and this it pops its ugly head up every time a Codex comes out, is people forget that there is fluff and then there is what can be done rules-wise so the game is enjoyable. Like, we've seen that with the whole movie Marines thing. Like, if Marines were made out to be what they really were and other things were not kind of hyped up to a similar extent, they would trounce the floor with one tactical squad.
Yep, a good example is I believe, one of my friends remembers the White Dwarf issue, but there was a White Dwarf where GW actually went, okay guys, if 40K if the game matched the fluff, here are the stats of a Space Marine. And it was like...
ungodly.
What?
It made Primarchs look normal.
Yeah.
From Forge World. And if they wanted to give us actual factual stats of Space Marines based on all the fluff, all Space Marines would be multi-wounded like WoW. Power armor would be better than it is now, and Terminator armor would be nigh unstoppable.
Yep.
A bolter would punch through chimeras, no problem. And I'm gonna break the game. I'm gonna upgrade and have a plasma gun. It destroys cities, basically. Like it's like there's
basically
it's absurd. But yet the funny thing is when it comes to Space Marines, we don't really get that crazy of a level of they're nerfed or they're too strong, because I guess we had that movie Marines thing that showed us how absurd it would be.
Yeah.
But another thing is, this happens a lot, is what I call niche races, like Necrons and Tyranids to an extent, and Eldar. People think those things have to break the game to be fun and balanced, and the thing is, they should be brought in line just like everybody else, and they can still be fun, and they can still be strong. People think that those codices exist to break the rules of the main rulebook, and that's complete and utter falsehood. And that's why when they don't see, but the Eldar can't just ignore the rules, then they're nerfed, or the Tyranids don't just ignore the rules, then they're not good. And that's not the way the codices ever were. They didn't ever, just like every other codex, they have rules that usurp certain things, and they still do to this day.
Yep. Let's see now. Like, there are some things that are kind of crazy in this new book, that are little like what and whoa. As we all know, the knight is now officially a gargantuan drum creature.
Which, did you say drunk creature?
Jump.
Oh, they said drunk. I'm like, it has the drunk special rule? No,
roll a d6 and on a 4 up it shoots its own dudes.
Back in my day, I've seen things. No, but and Eldar players can thank the Imperial Knights Codex for that, because the Imperial Knights Codex didn't flop. I'm not going to say it was a huge, resounding, oh my god, success, but because it had nothing else to stand on but this super heavy walker, and if that didn't work, the Codex was doomed. And it's there. It's there to be a thing. You can buy it and do it. And therefore, I feel because of that, GW is really taking a look at stuff and go, the Wraith Knight was pretty big model. It would make more sense to be a gargantuan creature. And I'm hoping to look at the Riptide and do similarly as well.
Yes. We did, the Wave Serpent did get toned down quite a bit, which is good for them. And every Aspect Warrior group now, they got rid of Exarch powers completely. There's no more Exarch powers.
Which, in all honesty, doesn't bother me, because it was either you upgraded to take them, or you just took them to be bare-bones squad and didn't need the Exarch powers to begin with. Like Fire Dragons. I have a squad full of Melta. I don't really care about the Exarch powers.
I like that what they've done, because before there were some powers that were just like, why would you bother?
Yeah, either super situational or just like, that's dumb.
Yep, the only person that really benefited from the Exarch powers, in my opinion, was the Avatar of Cain, because it was like, this are the characteristics of the dude he possessed type of thing.
Yeah, and I always felt that the Aspect Warriors were never truly given enough time whenever the Codex of any Eldar edition was done. I always felt like the Dire Avengers, we got them down solid. Alright, how about the Howling Banshees or Striking Scorpions? We're pretty good with those. Alright, what should we do about the Shining Spirits and the War Spiders? You know what? We've done this so many times, I don't care anymore. And I feel like all the Aspect Warriors are now much more buttoned up. Because in the past, it's kind of like, look at all these Aspect Warriors, but you're really only going to take Dire Avengers, and you're only going to take Fire Dragons and Howling Banshees.
What's really neat is now every unit has a special rule that's universal throughout the whole unit.
Yeah.
then the Exarch gains an additional ability. Some of them are a little meh. Like, I think the Dire Avenger one is probably the weakest out of all of them, because it only affects him.
Right.
And it doesn't really do much for the squad.
Right, which honestly is not I mean, it may be... Yeah, it's not bad, and...
It's not bad, it's just that when you look at the other dudes, and you're like, wow, it's kind of like meh, but I'm not complaining. I'll still take Dire Avengers, because they're, like, the best troop choice that we have.
Like, honestly, anything they do for Dire Avengers is not going to come off as potently good or bad, because they're such a solid unit. It's so hard to improve upon them.
They are the best, they're the closest thing to a Space Marine in the Xenos universe, really, because of just how well-rounded they are.
It's true, and that is the Space Marine thing, being the jack of all trades. So,
remember how last podcast we talked about how the Scorpions will have stealth shroud, but unless they fire, they lose it type of thing?
Yeah.
Well, they do have stealth normally.
Uh-huh.
They have shroud if they infiltrate. Once they shoot, including Overwatch, they lose shroud but keep stealth.
Which makes sense, and if they're shooting in Overwatch, it's a bit late for that shrouding anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. The only benefit to it is if you don't shoot, then you still have it after the assault. So it's 2 or 3. If you think you're going to wipe the whole squad and that you'll need stealth and shroud, then yeah, you don't Overwatch. But if you're like by yourself and it's near the end of the game, use it.
Yeah, and also, honestly, losing Shroud, not that big of a deal.
No, you still got stealth.
So, like, that's good, though. I mean, I'm glad that it's finally out here, and I'm glad that really, aside from the typical screamers of, it's too good or it's too bad, you know, just like every other codex, the waters calm down the moment it's released. Yep. It's really odd. Like, I think the wargaming community would learn by now.
Yep. They did get rid of, the Spirit Seer can't make, troop choices to Wraith Guard, so no one has to worry about an army of D weapons, unless you're playing a Yandon.
Yeah, but then it's an army of D weapons that isn't that big and doesn't have good range.
Yep.
It's like,
yes.
What do we do? Well, let's take 2 steps back and keep shooting them. It works perfectly.
They clarified how, Illich's super infiltrate of super awesomeness works.
That's fair.
And they balanced it now.
All right.
He's no longer broken in that status.
Honestly, he wasn't that broken to begin with. But...
Well, the trick was because what was the problem was he would group with Wraithblades, and then they'd infiltrate 1 inch away from their commander, and then turn 1, the Wraithblades would assault.
Yeah,
and
but
they clarified you can't do that anymore.
Which. Fine, but still, it's not like it was that broken to begin with. Oh no, my entire army unloads on you now. It's like...
And no more Pathfinders.
Mm-hmm.
The Howling Banshee mask got pretty nasty,
which is fine, but like, and also people got to realize, Eldar stuff ain't cheap when it comes to doing stuff that's super specific. So that whole Wraithblade thing, you may let's say I have my
Wraithblades are 150 points.
Like, let's just say I have my Space Marine captain out there, and you did that whole trick to kill him turn 1 because he's by himself, not in a squad. The trick, all the stuff you did to get to that point, you spend way more points than my captain did, and then my whole army kills all that big point sink.
And you lose a special character. You lose your warlord,
and therefore, that's why when people go, oh, it's not as strong, or it was, look at the points and look at the overall big picture. If you're gonna spend the warlord and the squad and do all that to take out one dude, or perhaps him and a squad he's in, and then the Predator, the Land Raider, the Dreadnought, the Devastators just wreck house, I just took out way more points than you did, and therefore I am now at the advantage.
Yep. All the Phoenix Lords, 2 of them saw points drop, and they now all have 2 abilities each. Out of all of them, Kahandras is probably my favorite, because of what his special rule is.
He's got cool fluff for me, but my favorite's Fuegan because of his name.
Fuegan. Him... I can't remember his special abilities.
His rules in the past were always kind of like, he's cool, but what they gave him special rise was really But it was just cool because I really like fire dragons, and because there was no warp spider one. That's why.
The warp spiders and the shining spears have their own special rules now for being aspect warriors.
Hey, it's about time.
And the warp jump rumor that we heard last week is true.
Okay.
And what?
The question is, will people take them?
The warp spiders?
Yeah, like, because you see
warp spiders were like the best. Well, like at least in the circles I've seen, they were like, aside from scorpions, they were like the best aspect warrior to pick.
They really weren't though, and that was what you saw. Like, the thing about warp spiders, I feel, is that they and fearless gamers can chime in on this in the comments. I feel they appeal to a lot of people in their cool and look factor, and then you realize they don't always fit my tactics. It's like. And that's why, and then, you know, what I typically see is I almost want them to stop considering Dire Avengers an aspect warrior and just make that your bait. Like, there's no need. Like, it's not a very option of, like, should I take Dire Avengers? It's like, should I take...
Well, they're a troop choice, so why would you take them over Guardians?
But, I mean, Guardians can be pretty slick. And Guardians have their role and what they can do. But it's like, it's never a question of should I take Dire Avengers. It's a question of, am I taking too many Dire Avengers? Like, that's the question. I almost, like, they're the most, I don't want to say watered down aspect, for not in, like, fluff or anything, but in the fact that I feel they're so commonplace that it's probably like, oh, look, Dire Avenger. Oh, look, Dire Avenger. And it's like, oh my god, a Guardian! You're so rare now! It's like...
Well, with understandable, you should technically, if we're going to go fluff-wise with any army, you should only use the Guardians in Apocalypse games, where your theme is a craft world's being attacked. To be perfectly honest, because that's where the Guardians show up. They only chime in if the craft world's under attack.
Or not in danger, but not direct. Like, in a time of dire need for the craft world, period.
And the Dire Avengers are, like, their standard troop. Like,
I feel like, you know, you're walking around the craft world, and you're like... So, if they're not a different aspect warrior, and they're not training on the warlock path or the Farseer path, or, you know, being the whole autarch and going through everything anyway, and they're not a bones singer, and they're not dead, why is everybody in this blue and white armor when this craft world's color is gray and orange? And it's like, where did all the people go? It's like...
all the people are busy learning to be musicians and artists and
all
cooks.
The people are busy being Dire Avengers.
Like, that is a complete, like
that's basically
very broad spectrum.
That's like how commonplace
maybe in Bealtan.
No, like that's how commonplace that Dire Avengers are, and like when you look at people who play Eldar, it's so commonplace that you look at it and go, "Are there any civilians left?" Nah.
If you look army wise, yeah, but fluff wise, the aspect warriors actually stay away from common troopers, from common folk.
Of course,
like, you walk down the boardwalk, you don't see any of them. You only see like citizens and all that. It's if you go down into the shrine area or the cafeteria do you ever see them.
Exactly, and that's my point. My point is that there are no citizens left. Like if playstyle was to dictate the fluff, it'd be like, so is anybody a citizen on this craft world? No. If you're not a warlock, Farseer, or autarch, or bonesinger, and not one of the other aspect warriors, you're a Dire Avenger, because screw Guardians. And it's like, okay then. Well, I'll be seeing you later then. Like, I picture like the Harlequins like show up and go, where are the people who actually want to see our stuff? Where'd all the people go?
In that fact, we actually got, which I think is kind of neat, our formations are actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, but who cares about formations, to be honest?
To be honest, well, we got a couple of good ones.
The Skitarii have something interesting, too, but you look at it and you go, while cool, I would never feel that because I would never have that many of that one specific thing.
Well, this one actually depends on, like, there's the War Host, which is mixing in all the different aspect warriors, and they give a really good bonus if you do use it.
I just find the battle formations are stupid. I feel you have the Battle Forge thing, which is nice, and then you have the Unbound, which you shouldn't play, and because the Battle Forge makes it in theme with how the Force should feel. And then after that, I feel like if you want to have a crazy formation, it should be something for Apocalypse, like and specifically labeled as such, because it just seems weird to me. It almost seems like, don't bother building a list, Johnny. Just play the formation.
Well, I feel like the formations help with giving you a theme with your army without doing the Unbound junk.
Well, you don't need the Unbound junk. You just go Battleforge, and the Battleforge spells it out for you what's compulsory and what's optional.
Yes, but like I said, I just feel like sometimes, like there's sometimes like that where the Force just wouldn't, where the Force organization chart wouldn't tailor to some of the things that some of the data slates allow you to do, though.
The thing that makes me take issue with all these formations, while cool and everything, it's like, here, do this with a special bonus for doing it, and it takes away the think about it and build a force that feels fluffy for you. You know, like, for example, the Kill Clade and Skitarii. If I wanted to do that, and I didn't have the enough, I could just go Unbound and make sure I got it done. Why need the whole benefit to do it? Why not just do it and be, actually think and create lists anymore, instead of just looking at the battle formation and go, I can do that because it's got benefits now. Back in our day, we didn't get benefits for making cool lists. We just made cool lists.
That is true. But, like I said, at the same time, I feel if anything, like, if they were to get rid of anything, I would rather they get rid of Unbound and just make it, Battleforged and formations, because I feel Unbound is just...
Oh, I agree. I think if anything,
because,
Unbound
like,
should go, but I just think...
Because, like, everyone always goes like, oh, man, this army's supposed to be all tanks. I'll just use Unbound. And I was like, no, because the army isn't just all tanks. You shouldn't go Unbound.
No, I agree. I think Unbound is really like GW. Like, I think if anything represents GW Unbound laziness, it's Unbound. But I also feel...
It's just GW trying to get you to buy everything.
Well, it's not even that, because there is no benefit to it aside from you don't have to worry about how to build a list. Like, there really isn't... You don't get... Like, there's no incentive to it aside from, I want 30,000 Land Raiders. That's the only incentive.
Another good use, and it always angers me when I hear people say it, is like, oh man, I'm going to do a force with Chaos and
Tyranids.
Let's see, I'm going to do Slaanesh and Eldar. And I'm like, well, Eldar have a whole thing against Slaanesh, and they really wouldn't work that way, and their forces don't have all these, counter rules for them. Yeah, no, I'll just do Unbound. I was like, no!
Well, that's my biggest thing that I hate about Unbound, is you can just throw fluff to the wind.
Yeah.
Eldar and Slaanesh. Eldar hate Slaanesh and fight with every fiber in their being against them. It's okay, Unbound makes it okay. And it's like, no, it doesn't. That's why I don't like Unbound. I'm not trying to be a fluff Nazi, fluff lawyer, but a force has a certain feel. And Battleforge, which used to just be the way the game was that force and feel. And I think if anything, what they could have done, because back in the day, it was always you had to take an HQ and 2 troops, and after that, you had 3, 3, and 3, basically. And that's how it used to be all the time, right? And then they gave us 4 troop, total. They gave us a total of 6 troops, and you could take 3 assault, 3 heavy, or 3 elite. And that's how it used
back
to be.
Back in the day, it used to be 3 troops and 6 fast attacks.
Yeah, but like... when they get everything super normalized, that's how it was. And I think what's cool about Battleforged is now the compulsory thing is dependent upon your force. Like, the Skitarii don't have any HQ, so their compulsory is 2 troops. But at the same time, they have an optional 6 additional troop choices. Like, which is, that's not every force is necessarily going to have that, and they only have 2 fast attacks. Like, you can really tailor a force's fluffy feel through the Battleforge, which is the one thing I really like about it. And I think if they kept that, they can get rid of Unbound, and quite honestly, formations were never necessary to begin with. That was playing Battleforge. You built a force around what you could do, and that was your formation. And I'll never understand why they decided to go to what they have now, because I don't think people are chomping at the bit to play Tyranids, Orcs, and Eldar together in one army. I really don't think so.
Well, I think that's where the formations came from, is when GW went, well, there's going to be a bunch of people that don't want to play just whatever. They want to still do the Battleforge thing and all that. They're like, well, then let's build a bunch of lists so they'll do it. Like if you look at the Harlequin book, it's like, wow, no matter what I do in this book, like a good example is 90% of their formations have the same requirement as their force organization chart for just the Battleforge army.
Right.
the difference is you get some special rules. So I'm sitting here going, so no matter what, I'm buying 6 troops, 3 elites, and 1 heavy support and 1 fast attack. So what's the point of the Battle Forge if I can have all these formations that have the special rules? Or what's the point of the formation? Just throw the special rules into...
Well, because the
what?
formations may go over a point total for a game, you know what I mean? Because what you're required to take, and that's where Battle Forge differs. But my point is, like, that's exactly my point. There's no need for it, in my opinion. And the reason I say there's no need for it is because back and forth and fifth and stuff like that, where we didn't have Unbound, which Unbound is basically Apocalypse at this. You know, it's like Apocalypse for a standard point game.
Out of anything, like, for me, I will agree that Unbound needs to go.
But it's just
formations I like, but I can say I could agree with the fact that maybe we could tone down the number of them and make them more just like White Dwarf things for a while. Oh, hey, here's a new way to spice up the Necrons. Here's a formation.
But like Unbound is just, if you want to play Unbound, that's called house rules. Have fun with it. You don't need we don't need official rules to have a house. That's the whole point of house rules, to have fun with it. And I doubt, if I was a tournament organizer, you heard me, organizer. If I was a tournament organizer, I would say, okay, here's the monthly 40K tournament, Battle Forge list only, because that's easy to monitor and make sure everything's going good and dandy. That's easier. It's just easier than everybody. It's just the way to go. That's how I would do it, and if you don't like it, well, then don't play in the tournament, in the story. But at the same time, Unbound, no need for it. Formations are cool. I'm not saying they're not cool, but I never understood this whole need a reward to build a list in the confines of what a codex would have had normally. Like, I don't need the whole... Like, you get rewards for Battle Forge and the Skitaria book, and there's a cool reward that you get for a couple, the 2 rewards you get. I never, like... It's such an odd concept to me to need a reward to build a list. Like, and then making formations to me is just screams of, well, I would have probably played this way anyway if it fell into my, regardless of whether or not I got an extra bonus. It just, I don't like it for that respect because I feel it cheapens it. Not in like gameplay being fair. I just feel like it cheapens the thought of building lists. Because it's like, I almost feel it's going to get to the point, because you are right, there's like a bajillion of them out there per army. And it almost feels like, well, I could go Battle Forge, but I want these bonuses, so I'm going to play this instead of playing Battle Forge.
But on the plus, with the flip side on that with it is some of the formations you could have wouldn't follow the regular Battle Forge organization chart.
Right, but which is the only plus side to it, but I don't feel it's strong enough. I feel something like that is what Apocalypse was for. That crazy, for example, when they had that crazy Wolfen detachment, which is a formation that they had, an Apocalypse formation for Space Wolves that you couldn't do in the Codex.
Yes.
That was cool because it was like, that's something special. That's like a special game. Something like that.
The only formations that I find pointless, in my opinion, is their Eldar and Necrons have an army-wide formation.
Oh, so does Guitar. We have to basically field everything.
Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much. Like, in Eldar Codes, you can have a war host. I'm like, what's a war host?
It's everything.
And they're like, a war host. It goes, a war host consists of three of these. No, consists of 3 core units. Okay, what's in a core unit? I can have this core unit, which is 3 defender squads, 3 far spheres. That's a whole force.
Exactly.
That's not an attachment. That's a force. And then it's like, then you can have up to 3 compulsories. I'm like, 3 compulsories, but 3 additionals. By the time I have the compulsory, I've gotten my points done. And then it's like, and then you need an HQ. I'm like, an HQ. There's one of the formation troops is like, ancient heroes. It's like, so it's just fielding every Phoenix Lord. Then it's like, Seer Force. I'm like, so it's every Farseer in the book. And it's like, those I think are pointless, because it's like, okay, if you're gonna make formations, fine. Formations are usually 1 or 2 things, and they get a special rule. What's the point of making a whole formation that's a super, like, 20 different items in it. At that point, I'm, like, sitting here going, this is like an apocalypse-sized force that I'm building right now.
Yeah.
Those are the formations that I think are stupid.
They're dumb, but I think that's the only place formations should be, Apocalypse. I feel like putting it in a standard game is going, we wanted to give more special rules to a force, but we decided to make you have to build it for it. Like Battle Maniple in Skitarii. You have to. That formation consists basically of one of every unit. You have a choice between two because they let you choose between one or two, so you have to have 6 things. Okay, whatever. Kind of dumb, but whatever. And then War Cohort requires 3 Battle Maniples. Now, depending upon how you do it, that's basically an entire force of a high point total. And it just, I don't know. It just screams to me like, why not give the data lock or the whatever special rule you're going to put into a war thing? Like with the Blood Angels have that one thing, like essentially give them a rule, like the Red Thirst again, but as a name. Like, I feel they could have done away with that formation entirely and just called the whole Furious Charge bit Red Thirst, like, or whatever it is. Like, there's no need to throw on this extra stuff and be like, and feel so happy and like really in, you know, a lot of like you're doing ingenuity here because you're not. You're just basically going, you know, we decided in balancing an army that we would have these special rules for the army instead, and while we had these other rules that we ultimately took out, we put them in a formation instead. And it's just like, you have to build it that way. It's just, it almost feels like, why build a list that is unbound, you know, unless of course you're going for 14 armies together at once. And if you want, and you know, Battleforge, the only reason it appeals over formations at this point, or on the same level, is because it also gives you bonuses. But it's so you get either you play that or you play a formation that you probably would have played anyway, but look at that cool bonus.
The one thing like I like about the formations myself is I like the smaller ones, like the ones where it's like, you know, like a good example is like there's like if it's 2 units and one of these, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Or the other only thing that I feel like formations could have possibly been useful for is doing like those special troop only ones, like for example like Deathwing and Ravenwing, making it where you need a specific, like a good example is like there's a Blood Angels formation where the requirement is you need to have Asterith the Grim, and it makes you able to do Flesh Terrors.
Yeah.
That I think is pretty useful use for.
He's a Blood Angel, but
yeah, but isn't the Flesh Terrors his chapter?
That's Gabriel Seth.
Oh, then I made the mistake. It's Gabriel Seth.
Okay, no, because I was thinking you meant that because he does go to different Blood Angel successors. So
I thought he was the. But
okay.
It's Seth. If you have Seth, then you get this formation which makes you do Flesh Terrors, and it basically gives you the force organization chart for how the Flesh Terrors are organized.
Right.
Stuff like that I think is pretty cool. Like if you know Belial. if you have Belial, then you can do the Deathwing formation, which is Dark Angels with Deathwing as the troop choice, and Samuel is this, and if you get the Khan, then you can do, well, the Space Marine Codex is the only one where it would be weird because technically it's just the chapter tactics change all that.
Yeah, and also it's just a captain on a bike for that. But I don't see that formation is taken care of by giving a sentence of special rules to Belial unlocking Deathwing as troop. Like, there's no need for a formation because he does that and he can always do that as a rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I feel like if they're going to do formations, in a sense, that would be a more useful use of them, is to make it where they just, he unlocks this force organization shard, and that's where the Terminators become the compulsory,
right,
and they gain objective secure over the troop choice, like a Battleforge army does.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I just don't see it as necessary because he does that. You know, I'm not saying him specifically in his codex, and I know what you're saying if they were to do it and everything, but it just seems like just put that in the sentence of somewhere on his person of a rule, like they've been doing, and you don't need the formation. I guess my big thing is, why do I need an incentive to play a certain thing? I'm already playing the game. Do I really need incentives to go, man? I like 40K, but and the idea of playing this would be fun, and this faction seems cool, but there's just not enough incentive to play. How about special rules? Sold. Like it's like do we?
I can understand.
Like we don't need special rules as incentives to play something. We're playing it because we like it.
Yes, I agree totally. I'm more of a I play whatever I want, but I like looking at the formations just to see different things. Like I think they appeal to me a little bit more because unlike because I like having these cool little fluff things, and I'm not really that great at combining units to make a thing, so I'm like, oh wow, formations does the work for me. But I can understand on the same front that you're looking at it going, this is just trying to bribe me.
Because at the end, it kind of, they could easily do away with formations, but have it in the Codex. This is what a kill clade is. Have the complete fluff of what it is, and therefore kind of like they had in the past, and they kind of mentioned in some of the codices where it's like, Belial spearheaded the defense of Calidus Harbor with only these units. Now, granted, he's a Grandmaster of the Deathwing now, but you could easily go, okay, so I'm going to field a company master, 4 tactical squads, 3 devastators, and call it an army. That's not. They don't actually say it in the Codex, but there's stuff like that where they basically tell you, like it's usually in the timeline, and usually in fluff, they tell you what forces are fighting and what this is and what this is called, and you can just easily, like the Tau, they do that with their different battlesuit formations. So it's I feel like that would be a formation in a new codex when it doesn't need to be. But, I get what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. I just feel, instead of trying to bribe us / make us buy models we wouldn't normally have bought because that's a cool rule thing, why not just give us how this is in fluff and we can do it ourselves?
That's the only thing that I will say, if there's anything I don't like about formations, that personally, I feel that formations there are a lot of formations out there that are too expensive to use.
Yeah, in a weird way.
If I'm running a formation, I feel like a formation be something that should be easy to collect and build, and your Battle Forge army should be like your project. But I'm sitting here going, wow, I have all the I have a huge Eldar collection. And I look at it wow, I don't need to buy anything because I could build a Battle Forge army. And I'm like, oh, let me look at these formations. Let's see what I can form up. Wow. There's more requirements for this formation than my Battle Forge army.
Yeah, no, I mean...
type of thing. I feel that formation should be smaller. That would be my only complaint with the formations. I feel that some of them are too big.
That's why I feel they're better suited for to just be apocalypse formations.
The bigger ones, I feel using that as an example, the Raven Wing formation in Apocalypse is huge.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, well, it's Apocalypse. Understandably, it's huge. But then I'm sitting there but there's some formations I like in the, I'm just going to use the Eldar Codex as an example. They have a formation for every Aspect Warrior shrine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's 2 to 3 units of this one particular shrine. Understandable. That's either my 3 elite choices, 3 of my troop choices. It's not
out of the realm of they would have done anything.
It's not out of the realm of But then they have the War Host. 3 units of 3 Aspect Warriors. So I'm like, what?
Some they can get out of hand real quick, and it's just I think if it was
or Cypher's data suite, it's just Cypher and a squad of Chosen. That's reasonable.
Yeah, it's reasonable. I don't like seeing how crazy they're going with it, and I don't like seeing the bribery intent of it. I just rather to me it almost screams of not product placement because you're going to buy this stuff and collect it anyway, chances are.
Cash grabbing, maybe?
It just feels I don't know, it just feels lame. Like I mentioned, it feels like they're trying to win you over, but you're already committed to collecting them anyway. It's I don't need any more convincing. It's like when a salesman does his job to the extreme, and now you're kind of put off. You're like, you know what, I was going to buy the TV, but now I'm not so sure anymore. You're talking too much. And that's the weird thing for it. But that's enough on formations. Let's get to assassins.
Yes, I was just about to say, Assassins, the game.
Really, the only way that Assassins make any type of sense or feel any way competent in 40K.
I was. This brings up my statement here is going to circle back to what we talked about in last week's podcast. I'm excited for it. I would be like so into buying it if the Eldar didn't release this week, because now I have no cash.
And that's my point of give an extra week that we mentioned last time. Which this is just too. Like, I feel that this did to the Eldar a little bit, or a lot of it, the way that Skitaria did to Codex Corn Demonkin. Like, it stole the show on the release party for Eldar, essentially. It's like Eldar coming out, but who cares about what's actually here? Let's look at what's going to come next week. And it's like, whoa, let's slow down. You're going too fast. And it's cool. I think it's a fair price. I would always love to see stuff cheaper, but for what you're getting, I think it's fair. It's just for me.
Oh, it's fair.
I feel it's not that I don't want to get it, but the only reason I would want to get it are for the assassin models, and that does not justify the price for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the chaos stuff I'll never use.
Yeah, especially since there's it's a very subtle hint. Is in the beginning of the White Dwarf issue. It talks about the Assassin's data slate, and it goes, get the rules listed in this book, plus additional fluff and a mission if you buy the Ordo Assassino data slate. And they show a picture of the data slate. And originally the data slate had the old Callus Assassin on the cover, but now it's the new Codex Assassin on the cover. So I'm like, so what you're telling me, GW, is I'm going to be able to buy these minis later?
On the one hand, they kind of give that impression. On the other hand, in advertising the game, this is the only chance to get these models.
These new models.
For now, essentially. And I'm okay with seriously, if they are going to come back, GW, in all honesty, give it at least a quarter. A quarter, like 3 months to 6 months before doing it. Make people who bought this feel a bit extra special for that time.
Yeah, like day one, pre-order bonuses on video games. Give them a couple of months before you can just go out and buy it.
Yeah, as DLC, like that's like if don't go a month later. Here's the models, because that would really be a kick in the face. Now, I will,
especially since that would probably roughly they're $16 now. So they'd probably bump up to $20. That would be $2, $4, $6, $80.
Yeah, as opposed to $120.
$30.
Whatever. At this point, what's $10? But
yeah.
But the one thing I will say, and this is nitpicking for something like this, because this is a cool idea, and I completely stand by my statement that if you want to actually have your assassins feel assassiny, this is the only way to do it. In an army-wide game of 40K, they're never going to feel that way. They may get a couple, they may get something really special in, like maybe the Vindicator will kill the Warlord, or maybe the Calidus will take out something good, or maybe the Eversor will go crazy into their troop choices, or the Colexus will kill off their Psychers. But they're either just going to do that, or they're going to die first, or they're going to do that and be ineffective the rest of the game, just picking off things here and there, not too good. You know what I mean? Like, they're one thing in a sea, and it's just not going to... It has never felt assassiny to me in a 40K game. Because, artillery, he's dead. Well, that was fun. But I will say, in terms of a nitpick, this would have been the perfect opportunity to bring in the Vanus Temple and the other temple as special models with rules for this game only. You know what I mean? To make it feel extra special, bring in some of the other
That would be
temples.
a nice incentive.
Yeah, like at that point, like I said, I want these models, but I don't want anything else in the game. It looks like a cool game. It looks like I'd enjoy playing it. It's just really, I already own a Vindicator. I already own a Calidus, and I like the new Vindicator model. I like the new Calidus model, and I love my Eversor look. They always look cool to me.
Yeah.
And they all look good, and I would want them as models, but I already own half the fleet, essentially. And I don't need them. I want them, so the game is kind of like, to me, because everything else I wouldn't really be using, and I wouldn't have anybody to play with anyway. That's another incentive loss. But what would help pique interest is if you introduced the two other, like, for example... in the Horus Heresy Nemesis book, where they brought the assassins to try and kill Horus, they gave us at least one, but I think two of the other temples that we know nothing about really in terms of game. And if they brought that here, like, check out, new sculpts for the 4 assassins plus 2 new temples, that would have been a huge, whoa, awesome type of deal.
Yeah.
Especially considering they could release the 4 as models later, but never release those 2 again because they don't have rules.
Yeah.
That would have been, like, more of an incentive for me to go, gotta get the game because those are pretty cool. And
yeah.
What this game made me, though, more so than anything else, made me go, man, I would love to play in a Death Watch or some type of 40k RPG when we're using one of those books in an assassin kill group, where every player plays a different assassin temple, and then if they're all used up, you rinse and repeat. You know what I mean? So, like, more than anything, made me go, that would make a really cool RPG hook. You're all different assassins from different temples. Go. Here's the objective.
Yep.
Achieve it in awesomeness fashion. That's what it made me want more than anything else.
Definitely, like, with these, like I said, the models are awesome, in this group. I like the Calidus a lot. The Vindicare is also pretty neat. And, the only one that I'm just, like, meh about is the Cullet.
The Colexus?
Not the Colexus, the Callus, sorry.
Okay, so I like the Callus because it harkens back to the classic pose the Callus has without actually being it.
Yeah.
So I like that, and the Callus...
I like how he looks so like, it looks like he just, like the Colexus kind of looks like he was just hit with an explosive shell or something, and he's standing up, like, I could just envision smoke in front of him, and them going like, he's alive!
What, the anti-Psyker one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how he just looks like he's coming out of, like, a dust cloud.
I like them all a lot. The Calidus, the thing about the Calidus is, it's got good detail. It's kept looking like it's a female, even though they're shapeshifters, and that's not necessarily a female.
What she looks like.
But it's as close to that weird pose where the phase blades, striking downwards. It looks very much like, hey, I came out of nowhere and you're gonna die. So
very Harlequin-y.
In a bit. It's very assassin-y. It's very, where did you come from? Oh, I'm dead. The Colexus, to me, looks like he's just standing there like, what? I'm a nightmare. You're gonna die. Like, he looks like he's doing the classic, almost type of horror. You're a psyker. You're feeling terrible. You started to bleed from some orifices. You looked up and you saw me, and here I am, and you're gonna die. The Colexus has a very cool feel. Eversor has the I'm killing everything feel because he's running. He's a really good wall running pose. Looks very natural for him, and very much feels like he's just running haywire in a complex.
And his helmet looks a lot better, in my opinion.
His helmet looks good. He just looks overall better. He's much better than he was. And the Vindicare, I like him for the sheer fact that he's in the pose you would expect him to be 95% of the time, just looking at stuff. Because all they do is wait for weeks on end to take one shot. So he's just like, they could have had him laying down, they could have had him just like looking somewhere else, crouched, but, would it be cool to have an action-y shot where he's kneeling and shooting or just standing and shooting? Yeah, but that's like the 1% of what he does. he's in his natural habitat, waiting.
It would have been. I would agree. It would look really cool, like if his terrain piece was like a ledge, and he was leaning down, like pointing down.
Yeah.
But this pose here is growing on me.
I like it. It's very. What I like about it
I would definitely buy it over the current one you can buy.
The thing about the Vindicare, aside from relating to it the most, as of the assassins, that would be the assassin temple I would be. Like if it was here and now type of deal, and I had to be one of them, that would be the one I would fit the best with. Is what I like about his pose is it has a almost commanding presence, and out of all the 4 temples, the best one to have leading a squad that's going to kill stuff is a Vindicare because of A, he's going to be miles away shooting stuff, so he's not going to die in the heat of battle anyway. B, he's also the most calm, cool, and collected of the bunch, and able to actually rationally think things out. Because think about it, the Eversor hopped up and kill everything all the time. When he's not killing stuff, he's in stasis. The Colexus, he's that weirdo pariah that you don't want to be near anyway.
You don't want to talk to him.
Yeah, you don't want to be near him anyway. Why I love that about him, it doesn't make for a good leader. And he's also really super specialized in I kill psychers and make people feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable who aren't psychers, basically.
Yeah, he is very, very specialized.
And the Calidus is so behind enemy lines, infiltrating, pretending like they're one of them and taking their place, that you couldn't have that leading. He would expose cover, and they would be out of radio contact a lot of the times anyway. You know, they're specialized like the Calexes, but they're constantly, like, they're going to be eating with the enemy, like at their dinner table, pretending to be them. And you can't use that as a leader, really. A great reconnaissance. The Vindicare is really the most calm, cool, and collected of the bunch. That's the whole point. They got to be calm. They got to be detached. They don't care if a whole army dies and they watch it because the shot wasn't ready yet. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And they make for leaders. And the thing about this pose, and why it's grown on me more so, it's the most leader-like pose of them all. It's like, yep, the Eversword's running buck wild. Yep, everybody's according to plan.
They have, by far, with this, the weirdest bundle coming out with this Assassin's game.
It is. And you know what I don't quite understand? I'm assuming this is just a standard Cultist, Chaos Space Marines, and Chaos Space Marine Terminator Sorcerer models. They look like they're just the standard multi-part put-together ones, which, A, is a bit odd for something like this. You know, I would...
it looks like, I'm guessing, like, with it is like the Chaos Sorcerer, he only comes with those bits.
Right, but I would have expected something more casual, you know what I mean? Like, Space Hulk was pretty casual in assembling them. And this, you know, being that this is something you could pick up and not play 40K at all because it looked really cool on the shelf. And I feel like it's a bit too hardcore to have those type of multi-plastic kits like Chaos Space Marines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That require glue and not snap fit. So I know the reason I'm assuming that is because they have no real close-up pictures of them, like 360.
And they don't describe them at all.
They don't really. They have that one picture where they're next to their cards, and that's why they kind of look like the standard models you can get now, which is curious. It's cool on the one hand because for the enthusiast players, they're getting some models that are legit models, if that truly is the case. But on the other hand, I feel like that might be a bit over the head for the board gamer who would be attracted to this because, well, look at that box art. You know, I mean, come on. Like, and it doesn't, and this game doesn't have like the Imperial Eagle plastered all over the front of it either. I mean, it's there, but on the bottom right corner, it's Assassin Execution Force. If you're a board gamer and you're into sci-fi and you saw that, that's catching your eye. And that cover art, a box art of the four assassins in their poses. I don't care who you are, that just screams awesome if you're into sci-fi, and you're gonna look at it and want to know more.
Yeah.
So good. That's good.
Actually, this board game, in a sense, I could easily see this in non-hobby shops.
I could.
Like, I could see this at, like, you know, Toys R Us's and Walmart's and such. Because we've carried, like, at my store, we've carried stuff with box art like this before.
Yeah, I mean, it looks so... and I hate to say this like this, but because it sounds so stupid, but mainstream in terms of... you could almost, if it was just like the Vindicare and perhaps the Calidus, you could almost see somebody go like, "Is that Tom Clancy or something?" You know, like, or is that like Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Because the Eversword and the Collectors make you go, "That's not Call of Duty." But but like the other assassins, it almost looks like something you'd expect to see in a video game. I mean, they all do, but for like the standard person who doesn't get the 40K look, so what the Collectors may look a bit too weird for them, the Calidus and the Vindicare is going to pull them in, because that looks so... I mean, the Vindicare looks so close to the Crisis suit from Crisis. Like,
it does.
I think people will go, that's cool, and that's why I agree with what you're saying. It could be in a standard store. What I don't like about this is in there saying, you know, while supplies last... And it's like, really, I thought you learned from Space Hulk. You could just keep this up here as a thing. You know, and never give us some models to buy on its own. Just keep this box going. If we want the models that bad, we'll buy the box set. We will.
Yeah.
I've seen people buy crazy things. We'll do it. Plus, it's a game. It's not just the models, it's the game.
I've seen people buy Dark Vengeance even though they don't play any of the armies for the mini rulebook.
Exactly. And I could easily see this going, hey, you're a Chaos player. Let's go have these. You get all the Chaos models. I just want the Assassin stuff. Because you know what? as weird as it sounds, you don't really need the Chaos models to play this game. You can just substitute it in with anything you have laying around if you want to, if it makes, because if you're primarily getting it for the models anyway. If somebody said, go halvesies, so that's going to be like, it's $125 for this kit, for this thing. So that's like essentially $62.50. And that is a steal to get for...
That is a steal to get 4 assassins.
And if somebody went ahead, and that's also a steal, in a sense, to get. Even though it might just be the Chaos Terminator Source. You're talking about 15 cultists, 3 Marines,
which you can't get anymore.
Right, 3 Marines, which isn't the most, but that's still like a $15 option typically. The cultists, for 15 of them, is probably going to be the Chaos players getting the slightly shorter end of the steal, but I still feel $62.50 for all the Chaos stuff is not bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think a player, or you could even go, listen, I'll go 70 something. You know, you can split it where you're paying a bit more for the assassin models to get the Chaos player more interested, because Chaos players, like every other player, will always want more models, and these are cool models, and the cultists are something that is a bit special.
Yep, like I said, you can't buy the 5-pack anymore,
right?
And you can only buy Dark Vengeance so many times.
Exactly. But, you know, speaking of these sprues, and like I think these are sprues, one thing I want to say real quick is this. Skitarii kit.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a chance hands-on with the kit a little bit, looking at it and everything. There's a problem. There's 2 problems that I feel that aren't like the worst thing in the world.
I got a blog ready.
All right, get ready for it. Here we go. Firstly, you only get 1 each of the special weapons, which is something I expect.
Not so stupid.
I expected that anyway, but it would have been kind of cool. Like, you only get 1, and the thing is, the squad can have up to 3 of the same special weapon in it. So
that's kind of bad. But
you know, it is. But at the same time, I'm okay with having 1 arc rifle, 1 transuranic arquebus, and 1 1 plasma caliber. I'm okay with that because this makes 1 squad of 10. The point cost total, or the point cost of these squads, is so low that you're going to be buying multiples of these kits anyway. I'm not saying that's justification, but it's like a tactical Marine squad anyway. You only get 1 missile launcher. You don't get any of the other stuff either, but through amassing it, you could, in theory, build a 4-missile squad, Devastator squad, just by buying a bunch of tactical squads if you wanted to. So I get the logic behind it, but also at the same time, because you can field so many of the same weapon, it would have been nice to see a way in which they designed the sprue where they could have 2 of the same sprues, so at least you get 2 of a couple of weapons. That would be kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Not to be. The biggest thing that for me is, you know, you built Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines. You know, they come with instructions, but once you figure out how to build one, you can just build them, no problem, mix and match, and do stuff. Not so with the Skitarii. Certain bits specifically go together.
I hate those.
And the torso is 3 pieces. You have...
What?
Actually, 2 pieces, I'm sorry. It's 2 pieces, but it's 2 pieces very weirdly. The coats are not all one piece. They go together, so there's a seam line that's usually hidden by something, and it actually goes together pretty tight. So if you just put a little glue over it, you basically cover it up. But that was a little weird. And also I learned from looking at that not all the torsos are the same. Some torsos has 2 tubes on the left and 1 tube on the right, and some torsos have 2 tubes on the left and 2 tubes on the right. So you got to line up the correct front piece with them. Yeah,
sort of like with the Chaos units, because some of the backs don't match up with the fronts properly.
Very kind of, sort of, because with Chaos, it can still kind of work if you kind of make it.
It can work, but there's like some, like they'll have the stripes going along the backs, and then if you put on the chest piece that doesn't have that, you just have these stripes that go nowhere.
Right, but you can put on the chest piece. With this, you kind of sort of can, but nothing will line up to the part where if you did it, it will look absolutely ridiculous. So, okay, but then what really bothers me with it is not, you know, it takes a specific leg to match a specific torso. So if you're not, like, and I looked at it going, oh, you could build this, and then I look at the rulebook going, you actually have to read, not the rulebook, the build book, and I went, you actually have to follow along with number 118 goes to these 2, because it only goes to that type. So, for example, the Transuranic Arquebus has a certain leg stance and torso top that can only go together, and you have to use that particular torso and leg combination as the base for a Transuranic Arquebus, so it looks like it's actually firing it, because it's a huge, really long rifle. But it was a bit odd, and I wouldn't have minded it if it was like a minor thing, but it really almost looks like they, in one hand, it's kind of cool because it really fits really nicely, kind of like how Space Hulk stuff fits together real nicely, and it's very specific what goes to what. But it was like, I'm looking at it going, you could clip out the wrong leg like 3 times before you find the right leg that fits onto it if you're not reading the book. So that's the only thing. I mean, the arms and the 2 arms go together, but thankfully they're right next to each other on the sprue. It's just that if you clip, it's not a case of clipping out the torso sections and then clipping out the leg section right near it and those being the correct legs. So it takes a little bit of actually, basically, as dumb as it might sound, read the instruction book. And I'm not saying, that sounds dumb on multiple occasions, because I'm not saying you shouldn't read them. I'm not saying I don't read them. I'm just saying I took it for granted because I built other kits where, once you know how they go together, just have at it. And this is not like that. It's a bit more forcing you in a certain way. So there is a bit, and I say a bit less kind of like posing and stuff you can do for these guys. They're kind of forced to do a certain position. And that's a nitpick for me because I expect it to be a bit more free-flowing. But I just found it as odd, and I just want to let buyer beware. If you're going to be collecting Skitarii kits, just be prepared for it. It's not like you're going to ruin the kit and not build it, but in the effort, let's say you're only building a couple miles at a time, you may clip all the legs out just to find which one fits in the torso you have.
Yeah, I hate when kids do that.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a thing. The weapon thing is less of an issue for me because, again, the point total for a squad is pretty low. You're going to need a bunch of these kits anyway, and really, depending on how you equip them, you're going to have what you need. I mean, it's just the way it is, and eventually online bit sites that still do that will have stuff for you, but it's the torso-to-leg combination that really threw me off, and also the torso combination. I did not expect that, because I tried looking at it, and I'm going, that torso is not going to fit on that back. I'm like, how? But it looks, why? It's just, don't do this to me. But it's the leg thing the most, and the arms, they look to be pretty self-explanatory. The arms are next to each other, use those arms. But it's also a case of the hand for the other, like the arm that's holding the rifle has the hand for the other arm on it already.
Ooh. I hate when they do that, because I hate it with my guardsmen, because if you look at a lot of my guardsmen, their arms are slightly askewed because I could never line them upright. Right,
well, what I will say about this is they'll line up pretty well. Like, look, these kits are solid for the Skitarii. It's like how the Space Marine thing has the hand on the bolt gun now, so that has to go to the arm, but they fit so well, and it actually fits a bit better than it used to because it's not as cumbersome. You're not clipping a bolt gun to make it fit anymore.
The
only thing I don't like about having the hands like that is there's only one galvanic rifle and one radium carbine that's held without the hand on it, to be like for the guy who's holding the special equipment upgrade, like a data tether or omnispecs or whatever. And he's meant to be holding up on his shoulder while taking a reading, essentially. Cool.
Yeah.
However, in looking at the Codex, you can have a close combat weapon on your squad leader and still have the rifle. So you would want to one-hand it and then have the close combat weapon if you wanted to go that way. And then that means you need basically another kit to build the other guy, because you can't, the other rifles have all the hands attached to it. I would have liked to seen the hand separate from the rifle so you can do more custom posing a little bit and have
That's what I love about the Space Marines and and the Eldar Guardians and Aspect Warriors, is the fact that they always have at least one hand free. Yeah. So you're not forced to have them always holding the gun in both hands.
I will say this, for these guys, they are very slender in comparison to Space Marine. The shoulder pad is not a two-piece arm like it is for Space Marine. The shoulder pad goes on, so you could really drastically change the positioning of the bolt gun and just clip it flush and glue it on that way and do stuff like that. There's no doing that in this kit, which I completely understand. They're not big and bulky Space Marines with huge shoulder pads because shoulders are vulnerable. They're not. Yeah. They have the standard little thing because we're disposable. That's the difference. So I get it. It's kind of along the Imperial Guard. You can't do too much arm manipulation either, because it's kind of sculpted to go to where it is, and if you don't, it looks like your arm's broken. So I get it, but at the same time, it would have been cool because you could. Well, I don't want to give anything away with the Codex, but I just think it would have gave a bit more potential. But the kit is rock solid. There's a lot of head options in there because it's able to make a full 10-man squad of Rangers or Vanguard. What's cool, and they don't show this often, I don't really know why, I'm usually not a fan of this, they have unhelmeted heads in a sense, where they're super heavily augmented and you can see a little bit of flesh. It's just cool because it's so different. I'm like, why wouldn't you... you love showing off unhelmeted models on your site. Why aren't you showing this off? The one chance you had, and you ruined it. But it was just cool to see. There's more heads than you need. So that's cool.
That's cool.
So I like that. But
that's cool.
But
that's cool.
Also, and I haven't seen this before, the stat line and like basically the little entry that's in the Codex is in the instruction book to build them.
Yes, they've been starting to do that lately. They did it with the Farseer thing. They did it with a lot of the HQ characters.
I just wasn't expecting it because you don't have access to anything else, so you really don't know what any of these weapons do. But but it was interesting nonetheless. But thankfully, and I figured they would do this because they do this all the time, and they point out what is what. Because if you're not... Because the Codex does so in the War Gift section also. They have art of all of their ranged weapons. And which is important, because when you're first doing this, you're going, what is the arc rifle? I have no idea.
Yep.
So it's good to know what it is, and I'm glad they do point that out.
And one thing before we wrap up for today, GW, once again, you kind of dropped the ball with the Artok.
Kind of. It's a step in the right direction, like we said last time.
It's a cool-looking miniature, but why just the one sculpt?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned in the previous podcast, it's not what we wanted, but it's a step towards something way better than what they had.
Yes.
Also, still not a fan of the Autarch on a jet bike.
He's I don't even think they made I think you still have to use the old Artok bike thing now. He's the one dude who didn't get an upgrade.
I never was a fan of that look that they were going for. Because it didn't try, you know what I mean? Like with the two flags and everything, it has almost an Asian warrior type of feel, like samurai type.
Yeah.
To it. But it's not. The thing with 40K is if you're gonna go for a style, you have to own it. And the Autarch on a jet bike doesn't own it. It's just random flags on the back of his jet bike. Like what's going on here?
Yep.
And that's an issue for me.
But the only thing I have an issue with the Artok new model is basically he can only be joined really with one squad to be effective.
Right, but what I do like about it is...
And they got rid of the old one.
They did. What I do like about them is, that aside, it's not 100%, but it's a lot easier the way certain things go together to sub out an arm. You know? It's a lot easier than it used to be.
It is a lot easider.
But it's still not exactly what we needed. I'm hoping that maybe 2 editions from now for this Codex will get a multi-part. I don't understand why. I mean, they know. They made
They know he doesn't just have access to a Banshee mask and wings.
Yeah.
They know he can do more.
It's just it is such the weirdest thing, and there's no real good in any other kit's base model that you can kind of kit bash your own Autarch and have it look right. You can kinda, but the Autarch has such a distinct look to him because he is the Skittles.
Wait a second.
What?
They're claiming the old Artok model is a new release.
It's probably a resculpt.
This is the Artok on a bike.
Yeah.
It's the same dude.
Well, they did that with Azrael and Ezekiel, where what they did is they freshened up the molds and then they re-released it.
True that.
But because he is 20-year-old.
Yeah,
or around there.
He's not 20 years old. He came out in 4th ed.
Yeah, but he's pretty close to being way too old to be used as a model.
Yeah.
But
this Artok model is cool. I just hate this is okay. I'll give GW credit. They made it where I want to go out and buy the Aspect Warriors I'm missing.
Right.
But still, I don't want my Artok with a bunch of Swooping Hawks. I want him with other dudes.
It's just, the Autarch is he's meant to be like the captain. Build him to fit your play style.
Yeah, give him a box set where he could be whatever you want him to gear. Give him one piece of each war gear he's allowed to have. Give him a generic body. We don't need 50 different legs and arms. Just a set of legs, chest, set of arms that you could put in any weapon onto.
Yeah.
3 or 4 different backpacks and 3 different helmets that he can have, and you're done.
Yeah,
I'll pay $30 for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one other thing I have to say, the Skitarii transfer sheet that they sell separate is a pretty big sheet, because it's like
Oh, you bought the separate one?
I don't have it, but it's it's 8.2 inches long or wide, depending upon it. So it's close to being decently sized.
A full-size piece of paper.
But it's big and definitely has a whole bunch more on it than the Skitarii transfer sheet in the kit. And the thing, this is a third thing for the kit that it was a bit odd. I didn't expect it. The transfer sheet in the kit is smaller than the Space Marine transfer sheet that comes in the Space Marine kit.
That's weird.
It's almost old school sized. A small old school size.
Whoa!
And
I have some of those still.
Like when they're really tiny. And
yeah,
I have no idea
still
why
have some of those.
I have no idea. I honestly, my brain hurt because I was thinking, why is this so small? I mean, not that there's hardly any reason to. It would be really hard to put transfers on these models. I get that.
Yeah.
But and I wondered, I assume the Doomcrawler comes with a transfer sheet also, but I could be wrong.
Probably.
But
it's probably like the Wraith Knight where it gets the one that they sell separately.
Maybe time will tell for that. But it's just, I look at it and I go, why so small? Why so small? And then I kill it like Joker kills the bad guys, the good guys, But but I ask it, why so small? You want to know how I got these scars? But and this other one is huge, and that's great, and there's a lot of stuff on there that is not on the small one. It's just I don't understand the thought process here.
Now I'm going to leave a question before we go, because we are getting up to the hour and a half here. I'm going to leave a question for Fearless Gamers here, and we'll discuss it in the next podcast. Speaking of water transfer sheets, do you think that GW should start selling transfer sheets in a way where we can make our own?
Ooh, that left a bad taste in my mouth.
So I'm going to leave that question in the air. Curious to hear what you guys... Is
it going to wave around like it just don't care? What do you think, what do you guys think? Leave us a comment. Yes.
Do you think GW should make it where we can make our own transfer sheets through them? Leave a comment.
Let us know.
We'll hear James's raging next time.
Oh, there's no raging. It's just, it leaves such a bad taste in my mouth just because I'm thinking price for a custom-built sheet. It will be something astronomical because it's custom, and everybody likes to give GW a bad rap for overpriced stuff. So
yes, we will see more to discuss here next time on Podcast Z.
No. But to follow up that question, just for a completely unrelated note, do you think classic game characters like a Mario, or even a Sonic, or maybe even Mega Man. Now, Mega Man is kind of pushing it, but
he's pretty classic.
But more like but for what my question is, do you think like a Mario? Like I'm specifically thinking Mario and stuff like Mario for this. If there was a new concept to come out today, do you think they would flop, or do you think they would be popular? Or do you think their popularity now is built up on years and years of being pop culture? You know what I mean? Like, do you think Mario is the success he still is today because he's riding on the past, or do you think that character concept could be a thing that could come out that was brand new?
So the question is if Mario made a new game today, would it be because it's a brand new game and it looks awesome, or because it just has Mario's face on it?
No. My question is, if Mario never existed as back in 1980s.
Oh, would he sell today as a new character?
If he was a brand new character concept today, Fearless Gamers, my question is, do you think he would be able to sell well, or do you think he would flop because he's not serious enough for modern gaming?
So, with that, we will leave you here. Yes. So leave your comments about both questions. Subscribe to us. That way you get these on time, unlike when I get them up on the site.
Listen, we like to keep you on your toes, okay?
Yes, so subscribe so you know when they come out.
Exactly.
So, thank you all for listening, and until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet.
Dan's a wild card.
Saying take care.
Peace.